Oh my goodness me, the gang's all here. Good morning, everybody. I thought, oh, will anybody turn up? I really did think that. I thought, hello, Karima, who have we got in the shot with us? Can we do a wave?
Hi.
Who have we got, Karima?
This is my baby, Kyle. He's just getting ready for bed.
Hello, Kyle. Kyle, there's some very, very, very attractive people on a call, and we wish you a beautiful good night's sleep. Fantastic.
Thanks,
colleagues.
Sarah.
I'm so thrilled to see all my favorite people in the universe that have joined us early in the morning for some, late in the night. Karine, I can see you, my darling. Deep good evening to you, madam.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Yeah, I just woke up for you. Yeah, I'm glad I'm here.
And can I say, nobody has ever offered me a greater compliment. So colleagues, look, I'm thrilled. And this is a very relaxed gig. So for colleagues who haven't seen this random person before, my name is Tara Brabazon, and I'm the Dean of Graduate Research at Flinders University. If you have no idea where Flinders University is, trust me, I'm dyspraxic. I don't know where I am most of the time as well. It's in Adelaide, deep at the base of the continent of Australia. Next stop, Antarctica. Yes, really. So colleagues, very, very happy, and Thomas is back with us. Very, very happy, colleagues, for you to whack your screen on. This is a completely interactive gig. We're going to go wherever you want us to go. So if you want to plan for the next year of your life, the next 5 years of your life, the next 10 years of your life, if you want to be even famouser than you are today, dear colleagues, then this is the day for you. I'm happy to go granular. I'm happy to go edgy. I'm happy to go hard. I'm happy to go wherever you want us to go. But I will commence with an acknowledgement of country, acknowledging the traditional owners of the lands on which we meet today, elders past and present, and any Indigenous colleagues with us today. And again, team, just be very relaxed with this. As I always say, several marriages will be formed. Oh, Chris, it is great to meet you properly and finally. How are you, Chris?
Hi, I'm doing well. Nice to meet you too.
Oh, it's wonderful to meet you. It's like 2021 has been a fabulous thing for me. So this is tremendous. It is also my great pleasure to introduce my, how do I describe this person? Alyssa Armstrong. I describe her as my wrestling tag team friend. And can I say, very well dressed today. That's a very stylish outfit. So colleagues, what I'm going to do, and I hope you do the same, is I'm going to whack the chat up. So colleagues, please ask any questions, any comments, and then we'll refer to you as you see fit. So we're going to make this, because this has got to be about you. We've got 1 hour. All of the brightest people on the planet are together, and we're here so that we can make a difference. We're here so that your brilliance is shared. And so what I hope we're going to do today is we're going to work on and I'm going to use the dreadful cliche, your personal brand. Oh, who knew we'd go there, Aidan? But we're going to work on your profile. We're going to try and get you a good job, lots of jobs. So we're going to work on your profile, and hopefully we're also going to work on the development of an income stream. I know a lot of posh people are like, oh, well, you'll get an academic job and you'll get tenure and you'll be happy ever after. And I think we all know, dear colleagues, I'm looking at the smile on your face. Liam was like, they're dreaming, mate, they're dreaming. So what we're needing to do is claw out a living in the precariat knowledge economy. So that's part of what we're going to do today. I'm getting nods too. So it's about making a living. Let's get down and dirty, and let's talk about capitalism. I'm happy to go there too. So Alyssa, I have welcomed you to the world. Do you want to now just sort of ask a couple of questions while the crew are getting themselves groovy and starting to write some questions and talk about things they'd like to talk about? Do you want to start us off, superstar? Loving the shit.
I know, I made an effort. Okay, so the first question that popped into my mind when we started talking about disseminating research is, how do you decide what to disseminate? Because you might have a lot of crazy ideas and some of them might be good and you're not really sure, but how do you decide what to kind of put out there and what to hide under the table and never speak of again?
Oh, look, I've got a lot under my table, as I know you have, Alyssa. But look, I have what's often called the magic triangle. Who knew we'd go pagan this early in the morning? But I have a magic triangle, and I have content, audience, and interface. Content, audience, and interface. They're my triangle. So when I have an idea, when I have a vibe, when I have a thing that I'm wanting to talk about, and it may be in public health, which is some of the work I'm doing at the moment. It might be about citizenship. It might be about the zombie apocalypse and the future of higher education, the piece I'm currently writing with Aidan and Alyssa. And I start with the content. So what is the content? Now, whose mind do I want to change? Who is the audience for this work? So Liam, you've got multiple audiences, multiple stakeholders in your work, and they can be quite antithetical. So for Liam's work, which is a great example, we may talk with Liam in a sec, that he's got this great content and he's trying to change the world and change people's minds. And he's got different adversarial groups that he maybe can't talk to at the same time and simultaneously. So he needs to think about that audience. And once you've worked out content and audience, then you can work out interface or platform. I think the mistake people make is they go, all of us do it. If you go, oh, look, I'll just post something on Facebook. I'll just post something on Instagram and I'm down with the young people. And actually you don't start with the interface. You start with your content. Then who the hell do you want to reach? What do you want to do? Who do you want to change? And then at that point, you work out the sociology of the platform. And so, you know, the people you're going to get on Insta are different from the people that you're going to get on LinkedIn, and the different people that you're going to get on Pinterest. So who is the audience, and let alone podcasting, on we go. So does that help, Alyssa? Should we just involve the legendary Liam at this point?
Yeah.
Because Liam was obviously, you know, has got a huge stakeholder community. Where are you on this, Liam?
So with my work, as you said, there is like 10 different groups of interest. So there's like local council. So sorry, I'll start off with a bit of it's quite late in the United Kingdom. Sorry, I'm Liam from Manchester. I'm at the University of Sheffield. Hello, everybody.
Well, welcome from Greater Manchester. Pleasure as always, Liam. You're a legend.
So I've got about 10 different stakeholder interest groups in my research, and a lot of this is the youth work community who are interested in my work, because my work's about young people who are outside of education, employment or training. So they're known as the NEET acronym in policy terms, and that label's been adopted internationally. It stemmed from the United Kingdom under New Labour policy thinking. So yeah, there's a policy kind of stream, but a lot of the work is about social justice. So it's about engaging with the stakeholder community of youth workers.
Yeah. And
the youth work sector in the United Kingdom has been absolutely decimated.
Yes.
Over the last 10 years. So people are disappearing, people are popping up elsewhere.
Yes.
And in the fallout from that, the academic youth work community has really sprung up. But I've got to really think about when I'm doing dissemination, so when I'm releasing conference papers, when I'm going to a conference, for example, I've got to kind of prioritise, and I'm getting towards the end of my doctorate, what I present and when. So, for example, I'm a sociologist at the British Sociological Association, which is happening right now this week online. I possibly have like a theoretical and policy and methodological conversation. Whereas if I was going to go to the National Youth Agency and the Youth Work Lecturers Association, I'd probably talk a lot more about the young people and possibly want to do something more co-produced. So it's all these different caveats on how I disseminate and when's the most appropriate time. So I thought, hey, I'll come to this seminar today and try and kind of demystify it and decipher before I come to the end of my doctorate. So,
and so Liam, you've already given us something crucial there. So colleagues, if you just want to give me a wave or put something in the contents box, if your work has something to do with some sort of policy stakeholder. So anyone from health, education, social work, on and on we go. Yeah, so about half of the group. Hi, Thomas, you're a legend. So Liam's really captured something there. And there is a group of journals, Liam, that are policy focused, that are, if you like, how do I explain it, balanced between the academic and particular stakeholder communities, particularly government, local government, county government, of course. Greater Manchester is a great example of that. In Australia, for my colleagues in Australia, 2 examples of these journals which take international articles, can I say, colleagues, 2 examples are Social Alternatives, and the other one is AQ, which is Australia Quarterly. And they are read by government, by policy makers in particular. And so if you are writing, if you're wanting to activate policy change, there are these mitigating middling journals that exist that allow you to outreach to that community while still keeping a foot in the academic community as well. Is that a goer, Liam? So I'd go for those sort of in between for the policy.
Yeah. Absolutely. Also, as well, a shout out in the United Kingdom to Youth and Policy Journal. So I
published with them. They're brilliant.
They are great,
Brilliant.
and they've stayed with grassroots youth work. They've stayed consistent since 1982. They used to be published with, I think, Sage, but now they went about 3 years ago. They went completely open access, and they run their own website, and it's all administered by them. And it's great networking, and also as well, like on the GIS mailing list, like your work gets disseminated about them as well through really well-known youth work academics as well as sociologists of youth. So it's been really, really supportive space for me outside of my institution. And it's also been really helpful in scoping an external examiner for my Viva, because we have a Viva in the United Kingdom. So yeah, where we have to
absolutely crucial. And again, as you always do with me, you and I clearly were in the same family in a previous life in Greater Manchester, probably Stoke, sadly, but that's a whole other conversation. But Liam, the crucial point you've made is the importance of open access. To be frank with you, you know, I never pull any punches with any of you. I do not know why colleagues select not open access. You're either open access or don't bother. And one of the reasons you do open access builds on Alyssa's great point there, was it's about you hope to know who the audience is, but you'll get some other groups that you didn't even know existed if it's available to find. So open access with the right keywords is a great way to do that. Absolutely brilliant. Now, Alyssa, mate, I'm seeing our legendary Beck's in the house. Do you want to say hi, Beck? So I'm imagining you're looking glamorous as ever. So Beck, say hello, Beck.
Hello, everybody.
Oh, we've become those people. Let's all wave at everybody. That's amazing. So Beck and Alyssa, darling, where do you want to take this? So where are you going on this, Beck?
Well, for everybody, I'm just in my very start of the second year of my PhD. So I've only written 1 chapter, done confirmation of candidature, 1 chapter, about to present at 2 conferences. And that's about where I am. So I saw on the PDF that you sent out, Tara, there is how to write a journal article, how to change your dissertation into a book, all of those sorts of things. So I was thinking, for me, maybe that chapter I would start to try and do a journal article. But then from what Liam has said and getting that audience, maybe it's best if I start putting some feelers out there in associations or council groups or some advisory positions, or getting on some sort of board to test the waters to see where an audience might be when I have a bit more information that I'm ready to share that. So,
and Bex, you're doing brilliantly. So what I would say is do everything, Beck. So the first thing is you've got that chapter that's ready to rumble. You're in the second year. Put the toe in the water, get that out into a journal. And as I said, open access, use the directory of open access journals. There's a lot of material in your field. And we might talk about you and your field in 1 second. But what I would do, Beck, is there was without a doubt, GLAM, Gallery, Library, Archives and Museums, is a huge area of what I call value add. So if we're dealing with the creative industries, it is the great value add for our colleagues in the creative industries. So get in there and get in hard in the GLAM community. So join those professional organisations. And Beck, and this is someone who has joined it and been a member of it for a long time, the doe's not that high, particularly for students, but consider the Society of Authors for you. The Society of Authors, based in the UK, big international audience though as well, and the links and the other subcommittees and communities under the Society of Authors is absolutely tremendous. And I told you we were going to be talking about COIN as well. The Society of Authors then also teaches you how to manage your copyright, how to manage the licensing of your material, and they return an income stream to you every year.
Okay, that's great. Thank you, Tara.
You are fantastic. So Alyssa, mate, where are we going next, superstar? Where do you want to go?
I just thought Joanne's question was interesting. If about the targeting fewer academic journals and more public engagement and getting a balance there. Joanne, you want to expand on that a little bit?
Hi, good morning. Yes. Hi. Good morning. I'm Canadian, but I live in Seoul, South Korea, and I study with a UK university. So I'm trying to get every continent possible here. So
you got us now. You got us.
And now I've got you. And I watch your videos all the time to exercise. My son was all excited. He's like, oh, the lady, she does lots of hand gestures, right? And I was like, yes. But now I'm going to talk to her. So, yes. So, yeah, in terms of trying to find out that balance between, you know, maybe should we be avoiding, like thinking in terms of some of your videos where you've said, you know, there's smaller publications that you're more likely to hit a larger target audience, and that you've made money off of those and the speaking engagements that have come from them. So how do we find that balance in terms of, you know, journal articles versus chapters in editions, and then meeting other people, right? In terms of a balance for everything, basically.
Right now, Joanne, you and I have a moment here, because that's really the question of the hour, isn't it? So because about 40% of crew that leave a PhD program end up in higher education in some form, in the higher education workforce. So it's still a big chunk. So you don't want to cut off your nose to spite your face. If you can get an academic job, and you know it is really variable. At the moment the employment prospects are so variable, Joanne. You just don't know. So my advice to all my colleagues is apply for everything. Apply for everything, because you just don't know what's going to occur. So the first thing is, to get the academic job, you've got to have the refereed trail in place. So you've absolutely got to have the articles. If you've walked away from that, then we'll have a series of other strategies we'll talk about. But if you still think that could be in your future, then absolutely do exactly what Beck said. Don't overwork it. As you're writing something, then take one more day and make it a refereed article. So you've written that for the thesis, take one more day, send it out. In terms of book chapters and articles for that, I would absolutely go for refereed open access articles at this stage of your career. The only time I would use book chapters is when that interesting call in book chapters comes up. So if you have someone who's they're doing a book and they've either approached you directly, or you see it and it's nested or clustered into your thesis or your early career research that you're doing, then bite their hand off. The problem with book chapters is that the audience for those is small, and they cite at a lower level than refereed articles, except if it's Springer, because Springer cut up the chapters of the books and sell them, as is the nature of Springer. They'll just keep cutting up their wife into different permutations to make more and more money from that person and that publication. But what I would absolutely say in terms of your point, Joanne, is if you're interested in making money, and hell, it's capitalism, sort yourself out. If you're interested in making money, and this is true, and I'm just some random person at the base of the world, I'm nobody special, but I've made more money out of journalism and books and public speaking than most years I've made as a salary as an academic. So whenever anybody says, and Aidan, you and I have been in meetings where people have said this, you know, books don't matter. It's like, well, when I look at my bank account once a year, books do matter. They really do. They really do. They bought me a couple of cars, so they matter. So Joanne, you are your own small business, right? So you've got to build up the brand, the profile, and that comes from the credible refereed articles. So make that the bedrock of your profile. Then what I'd like you to do, Joanne, is go, okay, well, let's also try and make a living. So if you know, unless it's really good for your profile, don't write journalism unless they're paying you. right? Because it's exploitation. I mean, I know people go, the conversation, blah, 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 blah. With the greatest respect, they're not paying their authors. So if I'm going to spend a day writing something fabulous, I'm going to be paid for it, right? So focus on also the bits that are being paid, and linking in with Beck's point. If you're activating particular communities like the GLAMs, then, for example, Beck, libraries will hire you to do a gig for one of their away days or a workshop in some form, and they will pay you. So working those professional communities, it is, and I'll use the phrase, Joanne, a portfolio career, a gig economy, right? And, these terribly exploitative phrases and tropes and paradigms. But if it's about making you a living, then I'll go there. Does that answer the question a bit, Joanne, mate?
Yeah, it sure does. Thank you.
Oh, that's a goer. That's a goer. Now, Alyssa, mate, where are we going now, mate? Because obviously you had comments.
Tara, can I jump in with a question?
Amy, good morning, Amy. Do we all do the wave?
Morning.
Are we still in Melbourne, Amy? Where are we?
I'm in Robe at the moment, so I'm on a girls' weekend. We're away for a 30th, and so everyone's asleep. I'm trying to be quiet, but I have a question. Yeah, that was yesterday.
I could hear it in your voice. So was it a good night, Amy?
It was a great night.
Was it great?
But I'm in the middle of marking as well, so it's busy life.
Best way to mark.
Yeah. So my question is, how soon is too soon to start publishing in a new area? So obviously I've got my critical thinking space that I need to address, but now I'm sitting in this GLAM space where I'm studying to be a librarian, and I'm already seeing gaps, and I know how to address them because of what I did in the PhD space. So I'm like, when can I jump in there? Because it's there, and I'm like, boom.
Amy, yesterday.
Okay, good.
Jump in yesterday. So, and the reason you can do that, the nature of interdisciplinarity, post-disciplinarity, the gift of the PhD that nobody tells you in our anti-intellectual times is actually when you've done a PhD, you know stuff, and further, you know how to know. So when you plug in different degrees and different disciplines, you go, oh, right, I know what's going on. You have a bit of a warm up, you go, oh, right, okay, we're in libraries, right, oh, this is interesting, information science, cool. All right, that's how it links with biology, that's how it links with critical thinking, information literacy, critical thinking, boom, thanks for playing, let's write a book. So Amy,
okay, cool. Yeah.
So go now, go hard, go early, keep going. What I need you to do is work the PhD out for me. So make sure you've absolutely dripped that out like a rag, right? Get everything out of that PhD for me, and then go hard in this new field. And as I often tell people, Amy, you remember this, my PhD was not a book. It was so long ago. It was on stone. No one would publish books when I did a PhD. So my first book was on a completely different field. So I really reinvented myself through my career multiple times. There are people that know me as a sports researcher that have no understanding they've ever written on post-coloniality or information literacy or higher education studies. They think they're different people, and probably they are. But Amy, go hard, go early, keep going, and keep working the different streams, Amy, and then start to build the spider web. Make the streams talk, Angel.
Yeah, well, I think I can, because basically I was doing this topic last term where it's literally reading and reading advisory, which is a common thing in libraries. You learn how to advise in books. Now, one of the tasks we had to do was explain genres in an area or subgenres, but genres are really badly defined, like so badly defined, and that's my game. That's literally my thing. And I was like, so I messaged our course coordinator and was like, could I do this? Like, this is a thing, let's write on it. And she's like, oh, you could do it next year as a dissertation. And I was like, but I don't want to, I want to do it now.
Yeah, Amy, Angel, you're your own small business. So
okay, cool. Just get onto it.
We get out of today is that actually, if you're waiting for somebody to do you a favour in current higher education industry, you're going to be waiting until hell freezes over.
Well, I've been playing the waiting game forever, so I'm over it. I just am like, when can I do it? So now is great.
Now is great. Yesterday is even better. Well done, perfect. Amy. Okay, so Alyssa, where are we going, Soup? So it's all happening already, mate.
I have a sub question following on from what Joanne was talking about, and then I would like to touch on what Michael was talking about. But so talking about this whole personal brand stuff, which I know you hate and kind of is a bit gross, and looking at all of these different platforms for dissemination, how do you kind of decide where to build your brand from? because I was looking at it, and you can have a Google profile and a LinkedIn, and there's that academia site, and there's Twitter, and there's something like an OrchID or OrCid, I don't know.
I think it's orchid for the posh people, darling, but they've misspelt it.
Oh, I like OrchID better. Anyway.
So do I.
Yeah.
I'm going to
have your own
website.
website. And people are using their Facebooks, obviously, as this kind of quasi-personal, professional space.
Yeah.
So how would you prioritize, I guess, would you pick a couple and just really focus on those, or would you go broad, or what would you recommend?
Yeah, look, look, that's the question of the hour, isn't it, mate? So what I would do is, firstly, the rule is no one can do everything, okay? What I would advise for people just starting into this branding configuration is do the stuff in which you are comfortable. So do I think you probably can't survive as an academic without LinkedIn and Twitter? Yeah, I do. I think you need both of those. I think at this juncture, you can make a decision between ResearchGate and academia.edu. You can do both. But again, it depends on your audience, Alyssa, mate. So whatever audience you're going to end up with, you need LinkedIn and Twitter. If you're working on collegiality and building personal relationships with academics, then I think Facebook can be useful for that, because as someone like me who's worked through, 9 universities and 4 countries, the way I maintain my friendships with my friends all over the world, 99% of my mates live outside of Adelaide. So they're authentic relationships on Facebook, but they're also scholarly relationships on Facebook, right? So you've got to pick it. But what I would do, Alyssa, mate, is I'd pick a few, but then I would work out which one is your priority. Mm-hmm. Right? Which one is your priority? So for me, my branding story, isn't it horrendous? I'm going to have a shower after this Zoom. My branding story, shut up, Aidan. My branding story really does commence, I suppose, with podcasts, because I did all this sort of academic stuff and publish a lot and all of that. But where I suppose I started to do something differently was I got into podcasts very early. I mean, 2006, really. I was a media professor, and so it made a lot of sense to me. And I love sound. I teach sound. And so therefore podcasting was great. And I've got how many now? 1,200, 1,300 podcasts in the last 15 years or so. And Alyssa, why that was useful to me, why I made that selection, is podcasts form really deep relationships with people around the world. So what I was interested in doing is using the voice to accompany people on their journey, right? So Joanne talked about, I'm sort of there with her while she's exercising. Really, that's what the podcasts were always about. People going for a walk, and I'm sort of there, and they get to know me, and then they reach out to me and I get to know them. So sonic branding was and is, I would argue, my bedrock, and my career has probably been based on that. And the video came very much later, and I find it, much more complex. And it's much more, your life changes around video, whereas sonic is much more, it nests into your life. So the sonic worked for me, and that became the branding that built all the other publication spider webs, if you like. Does that help, Elizabeth? What are you going to do, darling? What's going to be your font, your core that starts the branding? Have you thought that through?
I had a friend who said that I could be the people's academic because I'm a bit casual and I keep swearing. So
yes,
I guess my brand is that I am average.
Look, see, this is why you and I are in separate rooms, because I would hurt you at this point. I know, like, what are you doing? You are a brilliant human being, but by the same token, what I'm picking up on is you're wanting the organic intellectual situation. So you're wanting more of the Antonio Gramsci stuff. We're having authentic relationships with people outside of universities.
Yeah, and I think the thing that's really struck me this year, as I've kind of had more professional or like less personal people on my Facebook, is that my Facebook is a really interesting representation of who I am, and it's not necessarily how I'd like people to get to know me, because I come across like an absolute idiot.
Do you?
Yes. Yeah.
I don't think so. I've learned a lot from you. I've learned a lot about hardware from you, Alyssa. A lot.
Yeah.
It makes me giggle on a regular basis, though. I love it, Alyssa. And then I'm like, do I comment or do I not comment? No, I think she's just sassing. It's fine.
She's just the sassy academic. That's your brand, girl. We just invented something. You owe Amy a wine.
Sure.
And she's in the right place and the right mental space for that wine right now. So Alyssa, that maybe you've made your own decisions there. So think about the audiences, and therefore video might work very well for you. Thanks for that.
Yeah. Well, building on from that, I guess that idea of identity, Michael's question was really interesting because you were touching on the idea of your research almost conflicting with the institution that you're working in.
Yeah.
How are you, Michael? What a joy and a privilege to have you on this call, mate.
Hello, everybody. Yeah. So thanks, everybody. I think that whole notion of positionality, towards the end of my thesis, I think that became really important. So even the challenge I had with my supervisor saying, I think just when the pandemic was breaking, I thought I'd put that as an introduction, and my professor and my with due respect to my supervisor, he said, take it out. It had nothing to do with your thesis. And I said, I said, thank you. Yeah, but I got really a lot of inspiration from Tara's work and other people, the OWLS group, to say, look, it's your work, and I think that was, yeah. Anyway, look, it passed, and I had some wonderful comments from examiners saying this is one of the best things. But that's another story. No, but it was very validating. But I think that the challenge now is I've had 6 years working on it, and it's finished. And now there's some implications for how Australia and COVID-19 works with people of color, of marginalized groups. How we're all in this together. We're a boat, and there's a nice thing on Facebook that says some of people have yachts, some people are in canoes, some people are drowning, and I think so. I got a job in health literacy, and there's some very dominant sort of paradigms, I suppose, and it still talks about, and to my mind, at least in my world, about privilege, and it doesn't address all of that. So my struggle is that there's things that would be, if I start talking about some of the work I've done, would be really controversial from a policy point of view. So in government, there's such a thing as being on message. So I've been told, look, and I work in communications, so I know what being on message is and how we manage people like me, so and that's the struggle. So I just thought, so I'm doing a bit of volunteer work, and basically, I suppose it's kind of subversive in that who's that god with the fire? Like they Prometheus or something, yeah. And then so I give that to people. I said, like, you do this because social media enables you to do this. Because my basically research, 6 years ago, as we probably know, people of color, people with no English, they're poorly represented, and there's voices in social media. So what I've done is work with women, the Tamil women, with refugee women, and enable them to have their own platform. And to me, and some people say, oh, Michael, you're in dangerous territory because you really should declare your role as a health department person. And I'm really worried that if I start writing stuff, people said you can't really, but as they said on social media, two things is obviously with publications, I could probably hide is a very awful word, but like in publications, and say, well, I was doing this as an academic, a researcher. In some ways, I am, and I'm doing some pro bono work with research with some refugees. But at the same time, when I go on social media, somebody said you cannot hide because they will trace where you work.
Right. So, Michael, what a legendary comment you are. And can I just say on behalf of all of us, thank you for everything that you are and everything that you do. You are the best of us, Michael. You remind me every day what humans should do when they wake up in the morning. I've got a few strategies for you, Mike, mate, and I've obviously been on some of those journeys that you're talking about. Michael, what I'd say is, firstly, I would do as I said to Amy. I would get the academic work out. So I would have the scholar academic, the independent scholar, which is the phrase that's increasingly being used at the moment for the crew that just can't get a stable job. So as an independent scholar, so start to work that, Michael, and brand that up, say on academia.edu, which allows you to be an independent scholar. So do work that seam. You are a writer, you are a scholar, you are a researcher. So that's the first thing. So work that stream for me, and that builds the credibility of the story that's to come. Secondly, Michael, I'd have a good look at your contract that you've signed. I mean, can I say health literacy is so huge. What you're going to do, your career is just going to be amazing. You'll be professor of health literacy in about 3.5 minutes. But look at your contract and see what you've signed. And so if there is what I often call a gag clause in contracts, then you do have to be careful on social media. If they claim your entire life for a salary, that's where you have to be a little bit careful. Interestingly, most contracts don't have a gag clause, because most organisations love to use the idea of freedom of speech, following on from the neocons and then, of course, the neoliberals. So they believe desperately in freedom of speech for people that speak like them. For people that don't speak like them, they're not terribly interested in freedom of speech, which I know is a surprise for us. But check your contract. Check your contract first. And if there is no gag clause, then actually you're comfortable in terms of the employment space. If there is some semblance of gag clause where it is you are a representative of the organisation, if it is there, then that's cool. But what I would do, therefore, is use the academic to policy work to present that advocacy material. So that's, Michael, where I would use social media. I would use, for example, podcasts would be great for building gently up that relationship with your communities, Michael, and gentle, but also keep writing. So keep the publications going, keep the research going. You can have opinion pieces, absolutely, as journalism, be paid for them, and just make sure in some ways you're not going against what your department's doing, but you're ahead of your department. The key is you're being productive in talking about what the future of health literacy.
Sorry, Tarek, when you mean opinion, but under what name, under what hat would I do that?
With you, I would develop up the parallel identity of the independent scholar, Michael. And when you're writing the opinion pieces in professional journals and so forth, and for example, health literacy has a huge number of international blogs, for example, then actually cite yourself as an independent scholar. As I said, don't do anything that would be configured as adversarial to the people that pay your mortgage.
But but I think that's what the problem is, so for me, one, I'm not associated, but once I finish, I'm supposed to finish it, in May. I mean, I don't know what, I don't have any university association,
right?
Apart from that. So I can just say what, independent,
independent scholar. But if you're finishing with that organisation in May, was that right, Michael?
Yes,
then I'd be writing like a Trojan right now. And the day after you finish in that organisation, I'd send out half a bloody War and Peace to half of the population of the world, mate.
Okay, UTS. Okay, no, and
And Michael, what I'd say is, and the only final point I wanted to say to you is, so it is challenging because obviously if someone's paying your bills, then they sort of do own you. That's the nature of the means of production. So that does truncate you, but have a look at the contract. But Michael, can I say, I'm an old bird now and I write really out there stuff, right? I write really, really out there stuff. And I made a decision when I came back from England. I remember sitting on Manchester Airport, the tarmac, and I remember I turned to Steve and I said, you know what, bugger it. I've been apologising for my politics for too damn long. I've had it. I'm just going to do it. And you know what I have, Michael? And the weirdest thing I found is that I write stuff that's like the end of the world stuff, right? Okay, right. I write, universities in the zombie apocalypse, literally, okay? And I've found as I've done that, I've relaxed. My stress has gone down. And the great thing about a contemporary culture, Michael, is no one reads anything. So you publish all this work and you find your audience, but the people that you're actually worried about that think, oh, will they read it? The great thing is they don't read. And so they never know. And then it's out. And then you just get on with your life.
Yeah. And look, one final thing is also the hierarchy in my discipline. It's almost like there's some really top scholars in health literacy, and I've met with some of them, and I think even my kind of stuff is a bit, it's almost like there's almost like this, it is a power dynamic where they need your blessing sometimes in certain departments for your, you know, I mean, and yeah, so I think my balance is, I know what to do to get the outcomes for the community, the people that the end product, but I also have some sort of ego or thing to say, look, I want to be acknowledged for my work, you know, and some people actually want to do that. They want to do, right, let's just massage what you're saying and then let's publish this under another department, but your name is going to be one of the contributors.
Yeah, so Michael, firstly, that's in breach of the Australian Code of Research Conduct. So email me off piste and we'll be straight back there. So firstly, that's actually against the Australian Code of Research Conduct. And secondly, the great thing about digitisation that you've worked out is that it is disintermediated. So it actually collapses the relationship between you as an author and your consumer and your audience, right? So you literally have a direct relationship with them. So all the gatekeepers, and trust me, I'm 52, the gatekeepers that I had to put up with through the 80s and the 90s cannot tell you. Luckily, those mongrels have mostly retired. And my life was hell, right? And then in comes Web 2, in comes the deterritorialized media, disintermediated media, and suddenly you can get to anybody. Anyone online you can reach. So Michael, use that, and that's how you build your profile, because I've often described the online environment as smoke and mirrors. So you can start from zero and go to hero real fast, right? So, you know, we often use the OGR YouTube channel as an example. Got no one's permission to do it, just opened it. For 3 people in Tennant Creek, my fantastic students in Tennant Creek, which is great. What was it last week? A million views of that channel. Now, that's unbelievable. I mean, that's just like, it's from some random place, no money, so like no cost or anything, it's just me with a bloody tripod. And so, Michael, that's what I want for you, right? You're a brilliant man, and you now have the interfaces to enable your work. So let's use them, Michael, let's use them.
Michael, I just want to jump in for a second. So I get where you're coming from, because I've been in a weird space with my thinking, and I think that's held me back on publishing as well, because what I've got to put forward, it will change the research massively, and everybody else's stuff can nest into mine, which is really cool, but I feel like I'm a nobody in that space. But I'm not, and it's fine, and I'm working on that. What I want to, I guess, just like ego check you on, and not in a negative way. You talked about recognitions from the higher ups, but if you want to be a voice for the community, the recognition that you need is the voice from the community. Like they're your people. And so be known for them and advocate for them, which is it sounds like that's your research area. And the higher ups, if they're not already doing that, they don't matter. Like, yes, in a career sense, they do to a degree, but eventually they'll be knocked off, because if they're not addressing the needs, then someone will realize at some point.
I think, Amy, just to clarify, it was, I think my issue was about times when I put on an idea with some of the policymakers that was a bit controversial, and then they kind of remassaged it. And I have no, I think that's what happened, when I said, look, even now they said, oh, look, now that you're finished, would you like to present some of those things? But let me have a look at it, and then we co-present that stuff. And that's
no, don't let them do that. Like, it's your space, you're the expert, you've been putting in the hard yards, so and also carry that, mate, and the recognition will come.
That's right. And also, Michael, mate, that's the one loss. I mean, we all go social media, oh, it's exciting, oh. The cost or the consequence of that, what you lose through disintermediation, is if you're wanting the approval of others, if you're wanting the higher up, the big end of town to go, you're a legend, you're going to be waiting till you die. Okay. So you've really got it. That's why I say about getting that audience right. Who's your audience? Who's your audience? And then if you're not getting these audiences, you go, well, look, I wasn't aiming for those audiences. This was the crew. These are my people. Let's go for it.
Yeah. I mean, and I think it's when I see social change, when working with people with disability from migrant backgrounds, and they advocate, they write to their local MPs, that to me is, that's the stuff that turns me on. I mean, in a
platonic, holy kind of way.
I mean, if they're your heroes, then become that.
Yeah.
Be the change you want to see. Be the change you want to see. Michael, you're a legend. Alyssa, and I'm seeing fantastic comments. Where are we going to go now, mate? What's the story?
Can we talk about preprint?
Ooh.
I've just learnt what that is, so explain and the benefits and all of that jazz.
Yes.
Please.
Right. So look, preprints. And look, this is a big deal with the corporate publishers. So if you're involved in corporate publishers, and look, I know most of you are encouraged by your supervisors and by the world to deal with corporate publishing. So the Elseviers, the Springers, the Taylor and Francis, we'll just keep going. And the problem with those corporate publishers is obviously your ideas are bought. You sign a contract and you're selling copyright, IP, you have to look at that contract, see what you're selling. But often what you are selling is the right of the circulation of that final version of the article. So you can't often even use that in your thesis. You've got to use what's sometimes called the preprint, so the earlier version, which has fewer copyright restrictions, or indeed what's often called the green version, which is the Word document that you submitted to the corporate publishers. Right, so therefore that's a good version to use in your thesis. It's also a good version to circulate. So I'll give you a great example. My beloved late husband Steve Redhead wrote, I think it was a huge long piece, Michael might be able to help me, on the Hooligan memoirs. Now, we had some challenges getting it through because, building on our Michael's point, very radical piece of work, so it was challenging to get it through. He finally did get it through, but he put a version of it on academia.edu and it got 120,000 reads. Okay, so working on the preprint, the Word document, putting it up in Scribd, putting it up in academia.edu, putting it up as a draft in ResearchGate does build the momentum for your work. Also, the nature of Google Scholar is it will connect the versions of your work and align the citation. So if there are 5 versions, there's a preprint, there's the online version that arrived a year before the version in the printed journal. It gathers them all together and aligns the citations, which helps your H and your H2 index. Okay, is that answering the question a bit, Alyssa, mate?
Yeah, that sounds really good.
But when in doubt, why wouldn't you go open access so you're not selling anything? Why wouldn't you go to an open access journal where you're not losing the right to your words?
And just on losing the rights, Joanne posted a link that lets you check restrictions for general rules. So that's kind of an interesting link if anybody...
I look forward to seeing that. That's terrific. Thank you.
And Tara, this is Therese. Hi, Tara.
Therese, huge wave to my queen. It's so lovely to see you, magnificent as you always are.
Thank you. And that was my question on the preprint. So thanks so much for your answer.
Oh, and again, just all I'd say to you, Therese, and your words are so precious to me. You are an amazing writer. So just always remember you own them until you sign them away, and the words are precious, and how they circulate may lead to an income stream if you watch it carefully. So just I always say, you know, so much of academic life, we are giving our work for free. Academic work, academic labour is given for free to corporate entities who make money out of us. We all know that. So if we can make alternative decisions that provide different spaces inside and outside of capitalism, we should do that, I'd argue, Therese.
Great, thanks, Tara.
You're the best. Now, who else was speaking? Alyssa Dallin, was it you, or did we have an interloper in our fabulousness? Hello, was that Liam? Who was speaking?
Yeah, I think it. Sorry, it was me. So in the United Kingdom. I don't know whether this is elsewhere in other territories as well. During the pandemic. I'm A4 publishers. Like I'm thinking of some top names off my head. I think you've mentioned some before, some brands. I've published something recently, which was a book review, right? For this book, which was absolutely brilliant, about young people in the labour market, which was published prior to COVID. And in the terms and conditions, and I didn't realise this when I was taking it, now, because of COVID, they've disintermediated what things with open access. So I'm finding my article republished, my book review, absolutely everywhere on like government databases, like in really strange places. And I don't know whether strange is the right word, but yeah, there's something quite odd going on. And maybe I'm misunderstanding, but I'm finding it everywhere. And Google Scholar's actually retracing it for me, and it's ended up on all these different websites. Yeah.
And look, Liam, in some ways that's great at an early stage of one's career, although, can I say, I'm going to do caveats to myself on that. It is important to get your word and your name and your research out. So, and it's funny how book reviews can do that. I'm so glad you've said that. When I was putting this document together, I went, oh, maybe I should do something on book reviews. Book reviews can get you a new audience because the people that are interested in that book read it, and the people that are interested in that field read it, and then they know your name. So in some ways, Liam, you have lost control of it, but because it was a great book and your review was excellent, which I'll seek out after this gig today, actually in terms of generic branding of your place in the discipline, that's a good thing. But yeah, absolutely right. When you sign over, it can move absolutely without you, like a snake through the internet.
And a positive thing about doing the book review was that it was well received by the authors as well, so they liked it. But yeah, it's absolutely everywhere, so I don't know what that does for the sales of that book. Or
it probably does a lot, but again, the weird thing is those authors of those books might end up being a referee for you one day. That was a very, very clever party to enact, Liam. Well done,
Thank
mate. Well done. Alyssa, mate, where are we going? We're in the sort of final 10 minutes or so, I think, mate. Oh, my goodness, it's all happening.
I know, exciting. I just want to link back to a question that Carl put in the chat.
Yes, wonderful, Carl.
About blogging / microblogging. And as researchers, how can we publish content that we've already posted online? Because as far as they know, journals and publishers are not willing to touch content that is already available for free on the web. Is that?
Oh, look, it can be thus, and certainly there is some problems with that we're managing at the moment between releasing an open access version of a journal and then publishers working with it. That's a complicated space. It's not linear. It's not as easy as it would seem. But how I handle the blog or the microblogging or the podcasting or the video is I start, and was it Carl, was it, that this question came from, Alyssa? So yeah. Carl, mate, I start with, say we're starting with the article. Now, start from that as the foundational place where we're going to market you, okay? Then, and they may have controlled the movement of that material, but there's the article, there's the URL, there's the digital identifier, thanks. What I would then do is immediately microblog it, so attach it to Twitter with some good keywords and hashtags that link back to the article. So what you can do, there's the article, and you've got to link to it. Twitter has a great value as a pointer, so use it as a pointer. What I would then do, Carl, is I would do a video abstract, without a doubt. So I would go onto YouTube, and it's not long, mate. You do about 2 minutes straight to camera. This is who I am. This is the title of my article. This is why it matters. And in the information section of that video abstract, you put the link to the article. Okay, so do that. And then, as I often use with podcasts, Carl, how I use them these days is when I have a book or an article, I sit quietly and talk about how the research was created. So I use podcasts to gently create the conversation around the narrative. So to provide context for perhaps, you know, non-academic stakeholders to find that way into the article, and then I link to the article. So again, the publishers have got that, they've got the URL, they've got it, but the micro-blogging and the micro-linkages, we can create new content around it that links back and lifts the citations. Now, Carl, we'll go straight to Maeve in a sec, but Carl, does that answer your question, brother?
Yes, it does. Thank you so much, Tara. Thank you.
Oh, you're a legend, and good luck, mate. Good luck. You're an absolute legend. Bloody good question, mate. Straight to Queen Maeve. Good morning, beautiful Maeve, and happy birthday for yesterday.
Oh, thank you. So my question that I put up was very similar, and so my question was going to be with the YouTube. Are we making an early YouTube channel, or are we just?
Oh, look,
and before you answer that one, what I wanted to tag into that, with the podcast, would we be going libsyn because you've gone that way and that works? What would we do for a first place to host a podcast?
Yeah, look,
So,
great questions. So firstly, just to give sort of the contractual obligation stuff, Vimeo is pretty good, but can I say LibSync has a whole series of subscription models, and for a very, very low monthly fee, they very much allow you to proliferate and have all your material available permanently. Mate, why I use LibSync, and I've used them for well over a decade, is because they have multiple feeds. So they're a podcatcher, and it moves out and about around the world. And further, because they are the most mature, and LibSync, by the way, is liberated syndication, so right on politics as well. But they have now focused on, they've just bought last week a commercial arm to their business. So if people choose, and I'm going to use the word Aidan, and you can beat me about in our meeting next week, if you want to monetize your podcast, then you absolutely can. And again, if I were you, I probably would, because podcasts are not what they were 10 years ago. So I would go there, and I would use sound. And Maeve, it has, as you and I have talked about, very special roles in sonic profile in building up that audience. So I'd use sound.
And quickly to go into with that one, I love the way that you said that. So you're actually, the thing that you're saying about the podcast, it sits alongside, but the content of the article is there, but then the content of over here, you're just talking about how you got to there, which means that you've not crossed any boundaries.
No.
But you've nonetheless taken us there.
Yes, it's your story and your relationship with the research and the article. And Maeve, I'll just finish off about the YouTube thing. You know, I came to YouTube, I was early for YouTube, but much later to video after I did sound. And I'm very well aware, I mean, I'm an extrovert. I'll take my clothes off at any random, there's not much I wouldn't do, to be frank. I just don't care. I really don't care. But even, I'm aware video is quite confronting for people. And, someone who does a weekly presentation to camera, it is challenging. So if video is not you, if you go, this is just too much, right, then ignore video. I absolutely understand that it's hard yakka. If, however, you're reasonably comfortable post-COVID with our screen-based environment, there is no doubt, get a YouTube channel, get it early, and start to just slot in the materials that you're creating. And if you want to have a look, you can see my YouTube channel, Tara Brabazon, right at the start, before these last couple of jobs where I was doing professional stuff. You can see how I was quietly developing different types of content for basically, 8 or 9 years, where I would be talking about, I often used it too when I was doing a keynote address. I would do a 2 minutes to camera about, hello, I'm Tara, I'll be up in Sheffield on this date to do this gig, looking forward to seeing you. And the reason I would do that is, firstly, I would then have a URL that logged I did the keynote. So there's the keynote in my CV, and there's basically the abstract to the keynote that I can link off the URL. But find, water finds its own level. Find your best use of video if you're comfortable to do it, noting it is hard. It is very hard to do. Does that help, Maeve?
Yes, that's excellent. That's ticked all the boxes. Thank you.
Brilliant. So Alyssa, pressure on you now, mate. What are we going to do now?
So just a quick one. Would you start doing this is from Joanne, would you start doing the podcasts, then have publications, or publications, then podcasts, or some sort of
matrix? Look, I would do both. I know it's weird. When I came back to Australia, I don't know how this exists around the rest of the world anymore, but I get so many students saying to me, oh, look, I don't want to talk about my ideas too much because someone might rip me off. Has anyone else got that vibe? Oh, I'm getting nods. Oh, thanks, Bex. So I don't want to speak of this because someone will take my ideas and they'll gazump me, right? So the first thing I would do is I would podcast early, I would podcast now, I would podcast yesterday, because what you're doing is you're actually then copywriting your ideas. So on this date, this is what you're working on, and you capitalize if you've got a particular phrase or a term. So for example, I invented randomly a few weeks ago, the poorest PhD. About 15 publishers have contacted me and gone, there's a book there. I went, yeah, do. So, but because I've actually put that as a vlog or put it as a podcast, I own that. So I would go back early on a podcast to claim the content, then write it up Write up. So I've got an idea. Let me overshare this idea. Bang. Then write the research up and get it published. Then do the post podcast explaining your journey through it, contextualizing it for new audiences. So go early, publication, go hard at the end.
Cool. Okay, I'm gonna really push our time limit here, because Thomas asked something really interesting.
Can we just say hello to Thomas? So Thomas, just say hi, brother. I love you and I miss you. How are you, Thomas? You well?
Doing beautifully, thank you.
Missed you. You're a legend. What time is it there, by the way, Thomas? Where are you? What time is it?
It's almost 7 p.m.
Oh, living the dream, mate. Living the dream. So Alyssa, where are we for our Thomas?
So Thomas mentioned that unfortunately, work ended up in the sun. So how do you kind of make sure you have control, I guess, over the dissemination of your work and where you end up? I guess that's what you're asking, Thomas?
Yeah, no, I want to be more intentional about the science journalists that contact me asking for quotes, because he was independent and I was like, oh yeah, no, here you go, this is what I think of it. And then next thing I know, I got an alert that I'm in the sun.
Yeah, so look, Thomas, that happened to me early, and actually even last year I had a lot of randoms post the Trump study stuff, as you can imagine, that these independent people were supposedly wanting an independent conversation about this. And I said, oh no, look, I'm a bit busy, a bit busy. How about you write down the questions in an email? So what I do, Thomas, is I say them. I don't want to meet them. I don't want to have a phone call. I don't want to have this where we lose control of our words. And we lose a record of those words. When I've got the troubled people, I get them to write questions and I answer them in email. And needless to say, 90% of them don't write very well, and so can't write that email. They can't even write the email questions. And so they suddenly and magically disappear. So my first test is put the questions in email, please, and I'll reply and you'll get your content. 90% of them walk away, Renee. If they go again, you frighten them, because you then CC in somebody random. You can even CC me and CC somebody in, often linked to your institution, going, just clarifying there's full transparency on this content. Deal. Now the problem, Thomas, and this has happened to me, and it will happen a lot in your career because of your magnificent areas, actually, but every now and again, colleagues, and we might remember this moment together as a family, you will lose control of your content. So when I publish, and some friends have been with me a long time, when I published the University of Google in the United Kingdom, it went bonkers really fast. It might only happen once or twice in your entire career. And this thing went mad. I was on the front page of just about every newspaper. I was on Wogan's, BBC Two. It was crazy. And luckily I'd had at that time my wonderful husband, Steve Redhead, with me. And of course he'd had it a decade before with Rave Off and the use of ecstasy, those of you that know Steve's career. So he'd had all the ecstasy panic. So he'd had the experience in when things just lost control. So he said to me, right, tomorrow you're going to do the final 15 interviews on the University of Google, and then you are going to stop. So Thomas, what I would do when it has got away from you a little bit, or it's really hot, you're in a hot environment, then what I would do is do one last big day where you can control the content as best you can, but then stop. And then when there's no further content, there may be composite articles, but you'll then regain control of it and it'll hook back into an academic conversation. Does that help, Thomas?
Absolutely, thank you.
Oh, brilliant, mate. But keep in touch. But I said you'll have hot topics. That will happen to you because you're hot.
I was just glad to like have people gasp over their morning tea while they were reading The Sun. I was like, ha 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 ha.
Yeah, and look at it. I think that's, and look, there is something to, if you've got courage, Thomas, and you are that person. We have a lot of right-wing media like you guys do. And every now and again, I sort of think, mate, you know, when you get the crazies in, we have Sky News here. So when the crazies give you a call, do you actually go in there? You know, you have 15 cups of coffee, you cover every boob, everything you've got, you make sure you're completely covered, and, you know, you're up for it and you go for it. And you sort of think, but my answer to that is about the audience, Thomas. Who is the audience you're trying to reach? And if the audience is not the blowhard right-wing ratbags, then why would you even take a breath, use the fuel to get there to do the gig? So who's your audience? Work the disintermediation.
Absolutely. No, I agree. It would be way fun, but I'm going to try to avoid it in the future.
Yeah, and again, just be aware of the composite journalist. So the independent journalist is the challenge. So
yeah, no, I did not know where it was going to go, but he did pass the email test.
There it is. So he's just making money. So he's just made money off you. So he's been able to sell it to the Sun. You know, he's basically paparazzi with words.
Exactly.
That's our future, Thomas. Now, Alyssa, I'm conscious of time. Can we take one more question for everybody? Has everyone got 3 more minutes to have one more question? And Jules is in the house. Good morning, Jules. Good afternoon, Jules. How are you, Julie? Oh, she's ignoring me. And I should also, can I do a shout out to beautiful Noma? Can I just, my beautiful PhD student, Noma, is with me.
Hello.
This session wouldn't exist without Noma's suggestion. So Noma, just want to say hello to the people of the universe. Do you want to say hi, Noma?
Hi, everyone. Hi from New Jersey. It's 8 o'clock.
And you are so loved, Noma. You are so loved, you superstar. So Alyssa, maybe one last question and I'll bring it to a close. Beautiful. Want to go one more?
Sure. You also have a request now for a vlog on not only open access and reproducibility, but on personal branding for independent researchers.
Oh, gee, I have to have a shower first. Personal branding it's a good idea for independent research. You got it. Who suggested that one?
For the branding, Noma.
Queen Noma. Oh, Noma.
So you have to do it.
I do anything for Noma. I do anything for Noma. Noma knows that. I'll do that. So anything else, Alyssa? Any one last quickie we can fit in?
Yeah, Carl asked another interesting question.
Carl's
How do we publish academic research for a general audience without dumbing it down?
Oh, Carl. Can I be you, Carl? Carl, I think it's about, I use the concept a lot, Carl, of multimodality. Multimodality changed my life as a concept. I wrote on it last night. I'm writing on it this afternoon. The legendary late, great Gunther Kress is the great scholar of multimodality if you want to go there. But Carl, if you combine multimodality with Antonio Gramsci's organic intellectual, Gramsci argued, Carl, that the greatest organic intellectuals understand a topic so deeply that they can convey that information to anybody. So that's not dumbing it down. I hate that phrase, mate. I think as long as you're aware of who your audience is and the interface that you're on, you can present your work with integrity. It may be cut up in different ways, but you can decide how to cut up your research in a way that is meaningful for particular audiences. And it requires great writing. You're not dumbing the vocabulary down, you're just explaining it well. Carl, does that work for you, mate?
Thank you. Thank you. That works perfectly. Thank you, Tara.
Thank you, Carl. Well,
Tara, can I extend that for just a sentence or two? So I think the key probably, well, what I see is the key difference between kind of a more academic audience and a more general audience is the number of ideas you can throw at them. So just digest it down into what is the point that I really want that more general audience to take away from this piece. And you do that in writing anyway, you do have a focus, but I think in academic spaces, we are used to reading heavier stuff and we can sift through it a little bit better, whereas a general audience will see something heavy and bail. So that's, yeah,
beautiful,
just my
Amy.
2 cents.
What a great place to finish. Don't bury the lead. So Carl, what the big picture vibe is, what the big thing you're trying to get across, put it in the first paragraph. So it's not about dumbing it down, it's about moving it and cutting it in different ways. So firstly, can I say on behalf of all of us, Alyssa Armstrong is like the breath in my body. What a brilliant human being she is. Watch that name. She is a superstar and she dressed for it. Thank you for keeping me facing the table, darling one. It's been a hell of a week. And all my friends who have joined us. What a truly exciting, magnificent morning. Thank you all for being incredible. Noma looks now like the most fashionable person on planet Earth. Her headphones are going with her top. That is, Noma, just wave so everyone can see your fabulousness. Just say hi once more, hi and bye, Noma. Just say hi and bye. Oh, she's not doing so. You're embarrassed. Oh, so Noma is embarrassed. She looks magnificent.
No, I'm not embarrassed. I'm sorry. My connectivity is just terrible. I don't know what's going on. But hi, everybody. Bye, everybody. It was a great conversation. Thank you.
And beautiful Noma is about to basically do everything we've just done. Her thesis is currently under examination and her work will change how we think about tourism, how we think about events, how we think about regional development. And every single one of you has an incredible story to tell. And I hope today we've offered some little tidbits and some ideas so you can tell that story at your best and change the world through it. My dear colleagues, my dear friends, blessings to you. Have a great one. Rock and roll team. Love you.